The February rain hammers against the tall windows of the Grand Hotel Milano as Emma Valentini stands in the women's lounge, her fingers trembling as she tries to reach the zipper at the back of her emerald silk gown. The fabric clings to her curves, elegant and expensive, borrowed from her cousin Sophia for tonight's charity gala. Emma's reflection stares back at her from the gilt-edged mirror, dark hair swept into an elaborate updo, makeup applied with more care than usual, but her hazel eyes betray her anxiety. She doesn't belong here, not really, and the zipper stuck halfway up her spine seems determined to prove it. The gala is already in full swing beyond the marble hallway. She can hear the string quartet, the murmur of cultured voices, the clink of champagne glasses. Her best friend Chiara convinced her to attend, insisting Emma needed to get out more, to stop hiding behind her work at the university library. But now, Chiara has disappeared somewhere into the crowd of Milan's elite, leaving Emma alone and partially dressed in an unfamiliar bathroom. She twists her arm behind her back again, her shoulder protesting as she strains to grip the small zipper pull. The silk is delicate, and she's terrified of tearing it. Sophia would never forgive her. The dress probably costs more than Emma makes in 3 months, cataloging ancient manuscripts and helping literature students find research materials. She closes her eyes, taking a steadying breath, trying once more to reach the stubborn zipper. Her fingertips brush the pull, but she can't get a proper grip. Frustration wells up inside her, mixing with the anxiety that's been her constant companion since arriving at this impossibly glamorous event. The door to the lounge swings open, and an older woman in diamonds enters, her gaze sweeping over Emma with barely concealed amusement. Emma's cheeks burn. She can't stay in here forever, wrestling with her dress like a teenager before prom. She needs help, and she needs it now. Gathering what remains of her dignity, she slips out of the lounge and into the hallway, looking for someone, anyone, who might assist her without too much judgment. The corridor is quieter here, away from the main ballroom. Ornate sconces cast warm light on burgundy walls lined with oil paintings of stern-faced ancestors. Emma's heels click against marble as she walks, one hand holding the back of her dress together, the other clutching her small evening bag. At the end of the hallway, she spots a figure near the coat check area, a man in black standing with his back to her, speaking quietly into a phone. From behind, he looks like staff. The coat check attendant, perhaps, or one of the event coordinators. His suit is well-tailored, dark and professional, and he stands with the kind of stillness that suggests someone accustomed to waiting, to observing. Perfect. Emma quickens her pace, relief flooding through her. A staff member will help without the judgmental looks she'd get from the other guests. He'll zip her up efficiently, professionally, and she can finally join Chiara and get through this interminable evening. She's almost upon him when he ends his call and turns slightly. Emma catches a glimpse of his profile, the strong line of his jaw, the way his dark hair is styled with casual precision. Something about him seems familiar, though she can't place why. She dismisses the thought. She's probably seen him working at other events in the hotel. Milan's elite circles are small, and the same venues host most of the city's high society functions. "Scusi," Emma says, her voice coming out smaller than she intended. The man doesn't turn immediately, and she clears her throat, trying again with more confidence. "Excuse me, could you help me? I'm having trouble with my zipper." He turns then, fully, and Emma's breath catches in her throat. This is not a coat check attendant, not even close. The man before her is perhaps 35, with dark eyes that seem to assess her in a single sweeping glance, taking in her half-zipped dress, her flushed cheeks, her obvious discomfort. His face is striking, all sharp angles and smooth olive skin, with a mouth that curves into something between amusement and interest. The suit she'd mistaken for staff attire is clearly bespoke, probably worth more than her entire wardrobe, and he wears it with the ease of someone born to luxury. "You need assistance with your zipper," he says, his voice low and smooth, with an accent that places him firmly in Milan's upper echelons. It's not a question, but a statement, and there's something in his tone that makes Emma's skin prickle with awareness. His eyes haven't left hers, and she feels suddenly, acutely conscious of how much of her back is exposed, how vulnerable she must appear. "I thought you were," she begins, then stops, mortification washing over her. "I'm sorry. I thought you worked here. I didn't mean to bother you." She takes a step back, ready to flee, to find an actual staff member, or perhaps just go home and forget this entire disastrous evening. But something in his expression stops her. He's looking at her with genuine interest now, his head tilted slightly, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. It's not the polite smile of society acquaintances or the pitying look of someone confronted with an awkward situation. It's something else entirely, something that makes her heart beat faster. "You're not bothering me," he says, taking a step closer. The hallway suddenly feels smaller, more intimate, and I'd be happy to help with your zipper. He pauses, and his smile deepens, becoming something more dangerous, more intriguing. Though I must confess, my first instinct would be to unzip you entirely rather than close you up. But, he adds, his voice dropping even lower, I suppose I can manage the more gentlemanly option. Emma's mouth goes dry. Heat floods her face, spreads down her neck, and pools somewhere low in her stomach. No one has ever spoken to her like this. With this combination of directness and dark humor, this suggestion of interest that borders on inappropriate, but somehow doesn't cross the line into offensive. She should be scandalized, should turn and walk away, but her feet remain rooted to the marble floor. She starts, then loses her words entirely. Her mind has gone blank, wiped clean by the intensity of his gaze and the implications of what he just said. He seems to take mercy on her speechlessness, gesturing with one elegant hand. "Turn around, Bellissima. Let me help you before you catch cold in this drafty hallway." Emma obeys without thinking, turning her back to him, her heart hammering against her ribs. She feels him move closer, the heat of his body behind her, not touching, but near enough that she's hyper-aware of his presence. His cologne reaches her, something subtle and expensive, woodsy with notes of bergamot, and something darker she can't identify. It makes her want to lean back into him, to close the distance between them, a thought so unlike her usual cautious nature that it startles her. His fingers brush the bare skin of her back, and Emma inhales sharply. His touch is warm, confident, as he locates the zipper pull. He takes his time, and she suspects it's deliberate. This slow drawing up of the zipper, the backs of his fingers grazing her spine as the emerald silk closes over her skin. The simple act feels impossibly intimate, more intimate than it has any right to be. Emma's breathing has gone shallow, her hands clenched around her evening bag. "There," he says, finally, his voice close to her ear, sending a shiver down her spine despite the warmth flooding her body. All closed up. Though as I mentioned, I much prefer the opposite direction. Emma turns slowly, forcing herself to meet his eyes. He's still standing close, closer than propriety dictates, and she has to tilt her head back slightly to maintain eye contact. "Thank you," she manages, her voice steadier than she feels. "I appreciate your help, even if your preferences lie elsewhere." His laugh is low and genuine, transforming his face from merely handsome to something almost devastating. Quick wit to match the beauty. Interesting. He extends his hand, formal suddenly in contrast to his earlier suggestiveness. "Luca Ferrante." The name hits Emma like a physical blow. Luca Ferrante. Of course. She's not so isolated in her library that she hasn't heard the name, hasn't seen his photograph in the society pages. He's everywhere in Milan's business world. The young heir who took his family's textile empire and expanded it into luxury hotels, real estate, vineyards. They say he's brilliant, ruthless in negotiations, and that beneath the respectable veneer lies something darker. Connections and business practices that don't bear too close examination. The kind of man her sensible nature would normally avoid entirely. Emma's hand moves automatically to shake his, her mind still reeling from the realization of who he is. His grip is firm, warm, and he holds her hand a moment longer than necessary, his thumb brushing across her knuckles in a gesture that could be accidental, but feels entirely deliberate. She pulls her hand back, clutching her evening bag like a shield. Emma Valentini, she offers, because not introducing herself would be rude, even as every instinct screams at her to excuse herself and disappear into the crowd. Valentini, he repeats, as if testing the name on his tongue. I don't believe we've met before, and I would certainly remember if we had. Are you new to Milan's charitable circuit? His tone is conversational, genuinely curious, without the condescension she might have expected from someone of his status. It throws her off balance. She'd expected arrogance, perhaps dismissal, once he'd satisfied his momentary interest. Instead, he's looking at her as if she's the only person in the hotel, as if the gala beyond the hallway has ceased to exist. I don't usually attend these events, Emma admits, then immediately wonders why she's being honest with him. My friend convinced me to come. She's somewhere in there. She gestures vaguely toward the ballroom, probably wondering where I've disappeared to. Luca's expression shifts slightly, something like disappointment flickering across his features, before being replaced by polite interest. Ah, so you're here under duress. That explains the tension I see in your shoulders. He tilts his head, studying her with unnerving focus. Let me guess. You work in academia? No, wait. He holds up a hand before she can respond. You're a librarian. You have that quality about you, like someone who spends her days surrounded by books and prefers them to most people. Emma's eyes widen. How did you? Your hands, he says simply, taking one of hers again before she can pull away. He runs his thumb over her palm, and she feels the touch everywhere, an electric current that seems to bypass her brain entirely and connect directly to her nervous system. No rings, short practical nails, and there's ink here. He indicates a faint smudge on her index finger. The kind that comes from handling old documents. Plus, you have the posture of someone who spends hours at a desk, and you're uncomfortable in those heels, which means you don't wear them often. He releases her hand, smiling at her shocked expression. Am I close? Uncomfortably so, Emma breathes. She should be unnerved by his observations, by how much he's gleaned from such brief contact. Instead, she finds herself intrigued, drawn in despite her better judgment. I work at the Biblioteca Ambrosiana, rare manuscripts and archives. Interest sharpens in his dark eyes. Fascinating. So you spend your days with treasures most people will never see, preserving history, cataloging knowledge. He steps slightly closer, and Emma finds she doesn't retreat. Tell me, Emma Valentini, what could possibly have convinced you to leave your sanctuary of books for this circus of fake smiles and shallow conversation? His understanding of exactly why she's uncomfortable here, his dismissal of the event they're both attending, creates an unexpected intimacy between them. It's as if he's acknowledged a truth everyone else is too polite to mention. That these galas are performances, elaborate dances of wealth and influence where genuine connection is rare. My friend Chiara, Emma says, finding her voice growing stronger, more confident under his attention. She worries that I'm becoming a hermit. She thinks I need more social interaction with people who aren't 500 years dead. Luca laughs again, that rich, genuine sound that transforms his features. And are you becoming a hermit? Emma considers the question seriously. Perhaps a little, but the dead are easier to deal with than the living. They don't judge, they don't demand small talk, and they certainly don't make uncomfortable comments about zippers. Ah, he says, and there's something wicked in his smile now, something that makes her stomach flip. But uncomfortable can be interesting, no? If everything in life were comfortable and safe, we'd never feel truly alive. The words hang between them, weighted with meaning beyond their surface. Emma knows he's not just talking about flirtatious comments in hallways. He's talking about risk, about stepping outside the carefully constructed boundaries she's built around her life, about the kind of dangerous attraction that's currently making her heart race and her skin feel too tight. I should find my friend, Emma says, the words coming out without conviction. She'll think I've abandoned her. Or she'll assume you found something more interesting than champagne and predictable conversation, Luca counters. He reaches out, his fingers brushing a strand of hair that's escaped her updo, tucking it behind her ear in a gesture so intimate it steals her breath. Stay. Talk with me for a few more minutes. I promise I'll be on my best behavior. Your best behavior still involves suggesting you'd rather undress me than help me, Emma points out, surprising herself with her boldness. His smile is pure sin. I'm always honest about my desires, Emma. I find it saves time and prevents misunderstandings. He gestures toward a small alcove nearby, where a velvet bench sits beneath a Renaissance painting. Please, just a few minutes. Then I'll personally escort you to your friend if you wish. Emma knows she should decline, should excuse herself and return to the safety of the gala where Chiara is waiting. But something about Luca Ferrante, about the way he looks at her, as if she's fascinating rather than forgettable, makes her want to stay. Makes her want to be reckless for once in her carefully ordered life. She nods, moving toward the alcove. Luca follows, and when they sit, he's close enough that she can feel the warmth radiating from him, can smell that intoxicating cologne again. The sounds from the ballroom are distant here, muffled by heavy curtains and thick walls. It feels like they've stepped into a private world, separate from the glittering event happening just meters away. So tell me, Emma from the Biblioteca Ambrosiana, Luca says, turning slightly to face her, his arm draped casually along the back of the bench, not touching her, but present. What's the most interesting manuscript you've worked with recently? The question catches her off guard. She'd expected flirtation, perhaps more suggestive comments, not genuine interest in her work. There's a 15th century illuminated manuscript, she begins, her enthusiasm overriding her nervousness. Letters between members of the Visconti family. The calligraphy is exquisite, and the marginalia includes personal details that aren't in any official histories. It's like reading someone's private thoughts across 5 centuries. Luca's eyes never leave her face as she talks, and the intensity of his attention is intoxicating. She finds herself describing the manuscript in detail, the painstaking work of preservation, the thrill of discovery when she finds a particularly revealing passage. He asks intelligent questions, drawing her out, and Emma realizes with a start that she's been talking for several minutes without self-consciousness, without the usual anxiety that plagues her in social situations. You light up when you talk about your work, Luca observes when she finally pauses. It's beautiful to watch. Most people at events like this, they talk about their careers to impress, to establish status. You talk about yours because you genuinely love it. Emma feels heat rise in her cheeks again. I'm probably boring you. On the contrary, he says, and his voice has dropped to that low, intimate register that makes her acutely aware of how close they're sitting. You're the first genuinely interesting person I've spoken to in months. Everyone else wants something from me, or they're performing a carefully rehearsed version of themselves. But you, his eyes search hers. You're real. Unguarded. It's refreshing. Emma doesn't know what to say to that. She's not accustomed to being called interesting, and certainly not by men who look like Luca Ferrante, who move through the world with the confidence of someone who always gets what he wants. She's acutely aware of the small space between them on the velvet bench, of how easy it would be to lean into him, to close that distance and see if his lips are as skilled as his words suggest they might be. I'm sure you say that to all the women you help with their zippers, Emma manages, trying for levity, for some way to deflect the intensity building between them. Luca's smile is slow, devastating. I've never helped anyone with a zipper before tonight, and I've certainly never wanted to do the opposite quite so badly. His fingers brush her shoulder, the touch feather-light but deliberate. Tell me I'm not alone in feeling this. Emma's breath catches. She should lie, should protect herself from whatever this is. But something in his eyes, in the way he's looking at her, as if she's precious and desirable and worth pursuing, makes honesty spill from her lips. You're not alone, she whispers. The words seem to unleash something in him. His hand cups her face, thumb brushing across her cheekbone with such tenderness it makes her chest ache. I want to kiss you, he says, his voice rough with want. But I won't unless you tell me you want it too. Tell me, Emma. Tell me what you want. Her mind screams caution, lists all the reasons this is a terrible idea. She doesn't know him. He's wealthy and powerful, and probably has a dozen women on rotation. This can't end well. But her body, her treacherous body, leans into his touch, drawn to him like a compass to north. I want, she begins, then stops, gathering courage. I want you to kiss me. Luca's eyes darken, his pupils dilating as he leans in slowly, giving her time to change her mind, to pull away. But Emma doesn't pull away. She tilts her face up, her eyes fluttering closed, and then his lips are on hers, soft and demanding simultaneously. The kiss starts gentle, almost questioning, and then deepens when Emma's hands find their way to his chest, fisting in the expensive fabric of his shirt. He tastes like whiskey, and something darker, something uniquely him. His hand moves to the back of her neck, fingers threading through her carefully styled hair, and Emma doesn't care that he's probably destroying hours of work. Nothing matters except this, the way he's kissing her, as if she's essential, as if he's been waiting for this moment longer than the past 15 minutes. When they finally break apart, both breathing hard, Emma's lips feel swollen, her entire body humming with awareness. That was, Luca begins, his forehead resting against hers, his breath warm on her face. Unexpected, Emma finishes, her voice shaky. Inevitable, he counters, pulling back slightly to look at her. His hair is slightly mussed from where her fingers tangled in it, and there's something deeply satisfying about seeing that small disorder on someone so carefully composed. From the moment you asked me about your zipper, this was inevitable. Emma laughs, the sound breathless and slightly disbelieving. You were the one who made it inappropriate. I was honest about my desires, he corrects, echoing his earlier words. There's a difference. His thumb traces her lower lip, and she has to fight the urge to draw it into her mouth. Have dinner with me tomorrow night. The invitation, delivered as both question and command, makes Emma's stomach flip. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? His eyes search hers, genuinely curious. Because you're Luca Ferrante, she thinks. Because men like you don't date women like me. Because this is a fantasy that will shatter in the harsh light of reality. Because we're from different worlds, she says aloud. You live in places like this, she gestures at the opulent hotel around them. And I live in a tiny apartment in Porta Romana, surrounded by books and takeout containers. You're refusing me because of real estate. There's amusement in his voice, but also something more serious, more determined. Emma, I don't care where you live. I care that you're intelligent and genuine, and you kiss like you're trying to memorize the taste of me. His hand finds hers, lacing their fingers together. One dinner. Give me one evening to prove that we're not as different as you think. She wants to say yes so badly it physically hurts. But fear holds her back, the same fear that's kept her safe and alone for so long. What are you really looking for here, Luca? Because I'm not interested in being someone's temporary distraction. His expression grows serious, the playful flirtation giving way to something rawer. I'm 35 years old, Emma. I've had temporary distractions. I've had arrangements and convenient relationships, and women who wanted my name more than they wanted me. He squeezes her hand. What I'm looking for is someone real. Someone who sees me, rather than just seeing Ferrante hotels and textile mills and society connections. And in 15 minutes, you've shown me more genuine interest than most people manage in 15 years. The honesty in his voice, the vulnerability beneath the polished exterior, breaks through Emma's resistance. One dinner, she hears herself say, but somewhere normal, not some exclusive restaurant where I'll feel out of place. And, she adds firmly, you need to understand that I'm not going to change who I am to fit into your world. Luca's smile is triumphant, but also tender. I don't want you to change. I want you exactly as you are, covered in book dust and uncomfortable in high heels and brave enough to ask a stranger for help with your zipper. He stands, pulling her to her feet, and extracts a phone from his pocket. Give me your number. Emma recites it, watching as he inputs it with quick, efficient movements. Her phone buzzes almost immediately with a text. Luca Ferrante. So you can't pretend you imagined me. She finds herself smiling at the message, at the presumption that she might try to convince herself this wasn't real. Now, he says, offering his arm with old-world courtesy that seems natural on him. Let me escort you back to your friend, before she sends out a search party, though I'm tempted to keep you here, to steal you away from this entire tedious event, and take you somewhere we can continue what we started. Emma takes his arm, feeling the solid muscle beneath the expensive fabric. My friend would murder me if I disappeared without telling her. Chiara takes her responsibilities as social coordinator very seriously. They walk together through the marble hallways, back toward the sounds of the gala. Emma is hyper-aware of every place their bodies touch, of the way Luca adjusts his stride to match hers, of how staff members they pass seem to recognize him and nod with deference. This is his world, she realizes. These spaces, these people. And for reasons she can't fully comprehend, he's chosen to notice her. At the entrance to the ballroom, Luca stops. I'll let you go find your friend. But Emma? He turns her to face him, his hands on her shoulders. Tomorrow night. Don't make me wait too long to see you again. Where should I meet you? She asks. I'll pick you up. Text me your address. At her skeptical look, he adds, or if you prefer, choose a location and I'll meet you there. Whatever makes you comfortable. Emma considers. There's a trattoria near my apartment. Osteria della Luna. Nothing fancy, but the food is good. Luca's eyes light with what looks like genuine pleasure. Perfect. 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. I'll meet you there. He leans down, pressing a kiss to her forehead that feels oddly more intimate than the passionate one they shared moments ago. Buonasera, Emma Valentini. Dream of me. Then he's gone, disappearing into the crowd of elegantly dressed guests, as if he'd never been there at all. Emma stands frozen for a moment, her hand rising unconsciously to touch her forehead where his lips had pressed. Did that really just happen? Did she really just agree to have dinner with Luca Ferrante, one of Milan's most eligible and dangerous bachelors? "Emma, there you are." Chiara's voice cuts through her daze, and her friend appears at her elbow, resplendent in red silk, her dark eyes bright with curiosity. "I've been looking everywhere for you. Where did you disappear to?" Then Chiara stops, taking in Emma's flushed cheeks, her slightly disheveled hair. "Oh my God, what happened? You look like you've been thoroughly kissed." Emma starts, then stops, unsure how to explain. "I needed help with my zipper. And there was this man in the hallway. And you hooked up with him?" Chiara's voice rises in delighted disbelief. Emma Valentini, quiet, sensible Emma, who hasn't been on a date in over a year, hooked up with a stranger at a charity gala. "I didn't hook up with him," Emma protests, though her burning cheeks probably betray her. "We just talked, and maybe kissed a little." "A little," Chiara repeats skeptically. "Your lipstick is completely gone. Your hair is coming down, and you have that glazed look that says your brain is short-circuited. That's more than a little kiss, amica mia." She grabs Emma's arm, steering her toward a quiet corner away from the other guests. "Tell me everything. Who is he? What does he do? Please tell me he's not married." "He's not married," Emma assures her. "At least, I don't think he is. His name is Luca Ferrante." Chiara's mouth falls open. Luca Ferrante. The Luca Ferrante? Hotels, real estate, millions of euros. Luca Ferrante? Emma nods miserably. "I didn't realize who he was at first. I thought he was the coat check attendant." To her credit, Chiara doesn't laugh, though Emma can see her fighting the urge. "And when you discovered he wasn't?" "He asked me to dinner tomorrow night. And you said yes, obviously." "I said yes," Emma confirms, the reality of it finally sinking in. "What was I thinking? Men like him don't date women like me. This is going to be a disaster." Chiara takes both of Emma's hands in hers, forcing her friend to meet her eyes. "Listen to me. You are smart, beautiful, and interesting. Any man would be lucky to have dinner with you, whether he's worth millions or works at a corner cafe." She squeezes Emma's hands. "But you need to be careful. Luca Ferrante has a reputation." "What kind of reputation?" Emma asks, though part of her doesn't want to know. Chiara hesitates. "He's brilliant in business. Everyone agrees on that. But there are rumors that some of his business practices aren't entirely legal, that he has connections to people who operate outside the law. Nothing proven, nothing that's ever stuck to him legally, but enough smoke to suggest fire." She studies Emma's face. "I'm not telling you to cancel. I'm telling you to go in with your eyes open." The warning should probably scare Emma more than it does. Should probably convince her to text Luca right now and cancel their dinner. But instead, she finds herself remembering the way he looked at her. The gentleness mixed with hunger. The vulnerability beneath his polished exterior. "I'll be careful," she promises Chiara. "One dinner, that's all." The rest of the evening passes in a blur. Emma goes through the motions of socializing, accepting champagne she doesn't drink, making small talk with people whose names she immediately forgets. But her mind is elsewhere, replaying every moment in the hallway with Luca, analyzing every word, every touch, every glance. When the gala finally ends, and she can escape back to her small apartment, she collapses onto her worn sofa, still wearing Sophia's emerald dress, too exhausted to even change. Her phone buzzes with a text. "Home safely, I hope." "Sweet dreams, bellissima. Leroy." Emma stares at the message, her thumb hovering over the reply button. She should play it cool, should wait until morning to respond. Instead, she types, "Home safe, see you tomorrow." His reply comes immediately, counting the hours. Emma falls asleep with her phone clutched in her hand, a smile on her face. And for once, her dreams are not of ancient manuscripts and dusty archives, but of dark eyes and dangerous smiles and kisses that taste like promise. The next day passes with agonizing slowness. Emma goes through her work at the library mechanically, her hands carefully turning fragile pages, her eyes scanning Latin text, but her mind is elsewhere. She keeps checking her phone, half expecting Luca to cancel, to come to his senses and realize he has no business pursuing someone like her. But no cancellation comes. Instead, at noon, a delivery arrives at the library's reception desk. "Emma Valentini?" the courier asks, and when she nods, he hands her a long white box tied with a silk ribbon. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, is a single perfect rose, deep red and just beginning to open. The card reads simply, "Looking forward to tonight. No need to ask anyone for help with zippers. I'll handle it." Kui, Emma's colleagues, gather around, oohing over the rose, pestering her with questions about who sent it. She deflects, claiming it's from an old friend, but she catches the knowing look from her supervisor, a romantic at heart who's been trying to set Emma up with various unsuitable candidates for months. By 7 o'clock, Emma has changed outfits 4 times, finally settling on a simple black dress that's elegant without being too formal, comfortable without being casual. She leaves her hair down in loose waves, applies makeup with a careful hand, and slips into flat boots because she refuses to torture herself in heels for a man, no matter how attractive he is. Osteria della Luna is a 10-minute walk from her apartment, tucked into a quiet side street in Porta Romana. It's the kind of neighborhood restaurant that serves traditional Milanese cuisine without pretension, where the owner knows half the customers by name. Emma arrives deliberately early, wanting to be seated and composed before Luca appears. But when she rounds the corner to the restaurant, she finds him already there, leaning against the brick wall outside with his hands in his pockets, looking impossibly elegant in dark jeans and a charcoal sweater under a leather jacket. He's dressed down, she realizes with surprise, has made an effort to match the casual atmosphere she chose. The thoughtfulness of it touches something in her chest. He sees her and straightens, his face lighting with a smile that makes her stomach flip. "Emma," he says, her name a caress on his lips. "You look beautiful." "You're early," she says, stopping a few feet away, suddenly shy despite the intimacy they'd shared the night before. "I couldn't wait," he admits, with disarming honesty. "I've been standing here for 20 minutes, feeling like a teenager before his first date." He closes the distance between them, taking her hands in his. "Thank you for giving me this chance." Emma finds herself smiling despite her nerves. "Thank you for the rose. It was beautiful." Also deeply presumptuous about the zipper situation. His laugh is warm, genuine. "I couldn't help myself. The image of you asking me for help, so earnest and flustered, has been playing on repeat in my mind all day." He offers his arm. "Shall we? I'm curious to try this place. I've never been here before." They enter the osteria together, and Emma immediately feels more at ease. This is familiar territory, her neighborhood, her kind of place. The owner, Signora Benedetti, greets her warmly and shows them to a corner table that offers both intimacy and a view of the small dining room. Once they're seated with menus and wine, an uncomfortable silence descends. Emma fidgets with her napkin, acutely aware that this is different from last night. Then, they'd been strangers, caught in a moment of spontaneous chemistry. Now, they're two people trying to build something more substantial, and the weight of that intention makes everything feel more awkward, more significant. "So," Luca says after a moment, his voice gentle, "should we start with the obvious question? Why did someone as beautiful and intelligent as you think she was speaking to the coat check attendant? The teasing breaks the tension, and Emma laughs. In my defense, you were standing near the coat check area, and I was desperate. The dress wasn't mine, and I was terrified of ruining it. She meets his eyes across the table. Why did you help me instead of directing me to actual staff? Because you interested me immediately, he says simply. The way you approached, so determined but nervous. The way you blushed when you realized your mistake. I wanted to know more about the woman brave enough to ask a stranger for help, but self-conscious enough to be embarrassed by the request. He pauses. Also, you're stunning, and I'm not made of stone. Heat creeps into Emma's cheeks, but she holds his gaze. You must meet beautiful women constantly. I meet women who've been professionally styled and surgically enhanced and carefully packaged to appeal to men like me, Luca corrects. You, in your borrowed dress with your zipper crisis, were real, genuine. I haven't encountered genuine in so long, I'd almost forgotten what it looked like. Their server arrives to take orders, and Emma is grateful for the interruption. She needs a moment to process what Luca just said, the hint of loneliness beneath his words. When they're alone again, she decides to push a little, to see beneath the polished surface he presents to the world. Tell me about your life, Emma says, leaning forward slightly. Not the business empire or the society connections, the real parts. What do you do when you're not acquiring companies or attending charity galas? Luca considers the question, swirling the wine in his glass. Honestly, I work. Most of the time, I work. My father built something incredible, and when he died 5 years ago, it became my responsibility to not only maintain it, but expand it. He meets her eyes. But when I'm not working, I collect art. I have a weakness for Renaissance bronzes, small pieces most people overlook in favor of the grand paintings and sculptures. There's something about the craftsmanship, the detail, in something so small. Emma finds herself genuinely interested. Do you have a favorite piece? His face transforms with enthusiasm, losing some of its careful control. A 15th century bronze of Mercury by an unknown artist. It's only about 20 centimeters tall, but the detail is extraordinary. You can see individual feathers on his winged feet, the muscles in his legs. Whoever made it poured their soul into it. He stops, looking almost embarrassed. I'm boring you. You're not, Emma assures him quickly. I understand that feeling completely. That's how I feel about the manuscripts I work with. These objects that someone created centuries ago, putting their skill and passion into something they hoped would last. It's a kind of immortality. Luca's eyes warm with appreciation. Exactly. Most people don't understand that. They see old things as valuable only in monetary terms. But you get it. The real value is in the human connection across time. Their food arrives, simple but perfectly prepared dishes that fill the table with delicious aromas. As they eat, the conversation flows more easily. Luca asks about Emma's work, and she finds herself describing the intricacies of manuscript preservation, the thrill of translation, the puzzle of piecing together fragmented historical records. He listens with genuine interest, asking intelligent questions that prove he's really paying attention. What made you choose this work? He asks over the main course. It must require incredible patience and attention to detail. Emma sets down her fork, considering. After my parents died when I was 19, I felt unmoored, like I'd lost my connection to everything that mattered. I started spending time at the library, first just to escape, then because I discovered these collections of personal letters, diaries, documents, where people from centuries ago talked about loss and grief and finding meaning again. She meets his eyes. It sounds strange, but those dead people helped me feel less alone. They showed me that pain is universal, but so is resilience. Something shifts in Luca's expression, a softening around his eyes. It's not strange at all. I understand completely. He reaches across the table, taking her hand. My father's death nearly destroyed me. Not just because I loved him, but because I discovered afterward that much of what I thought I knew about him was a carefully constructed facade. He wasn't the simple textile manufacturer I believed him to be. Emma squeezes his hand, sensing the pain beneath his words. What do you mean? Luca is quiet for a long moment, his thumb absently stroking across her knuckles. When he speaks, his voice is low, meant only for her. My father had connections to people who operated outside the law, not overtly criminal, but in that gray space between legal and illegal, where powerful men often work. I inherited not just his companies, but those relationships, those obligations. He looks up at her. I'm telling you this because I want you to know who I am, what being with me might mean. I'm not a simple businessman, Emma. My world can be complicated and sometimes dangerous. Emma's heart pounds, but she doesn't pull her hand away. Chiara's warnings echo in her mind, but so does the memory of Luca's gentleness last night, his vulnerability just now. Are you warning me away? She asks quietly. I'm giving you the truth, he says, because you deserve to make an informed choice about whether you want to see me again after tonight. Emma studies his face, the tension in his jaw, the genuine concern in his eyes. He's not trying to seduce her with promises of safety or normalcy. He's offering her the reality, unvarnished and complicated. There's something deeply compelling about that honesty, even as it frightens her. I appreciate your honesty, she says finally, but I need you to understand something too. I'm not naive. I know that men in your position don't accumulate that much power and wealth by always playing by the rules. But I also know that you didn't have to tell me any of this. You could have kept me in the dark, let me believe whatever I wanted to believe. She squeezes his hand. The fact that you're being honest with me, that you're giving me the choice, that means something. Relief floods Luca's features. So you'll see me again? After tonight? I want to, Emma admits, but I need you to be patient with me. This, she gestures between them, is not something I'm accustomed to. I don't know how to navigate your world, and I'm not sure I want to become someone who does. I need to stay who I am. I don't want you to change, Luca says fiercely. That's the point, Emma. You're real in a way nothing else in my life is. I need that. I need you to stay exactly as you are, to ground me when everything else becomes too much performance and posturing. They finish dinner, talking about lighter things, favorite books and films, childhood memories, the small details that build intimacy between two people. Emma learns that Luca has a weakness for old American jazz, that he's terrible at cooking but excellent at appreciating good food, that he reads voraciously but guiltily, as if taking time for pleasure reading is an indulgence he doesn't deserve. When the bill comes, Luca handles it smoothly, despite Emma's protest that they should split it. Next time, he promises, you can choose an even more humble establishment and pay if it makes you feel better. But tonight, let me have this. Let me take care of this one small thing. Outside the restaurant, the February night is cold but clear, stars visible despite Milan's light pollution. Luca walks Emma toward her apartment building, their hands linked naturally, as if they've been doing this for years rather than hours. At her door, Emma turns to face him, suddenly uncertain. Does she invite him up? Does she want to? The attraction between them is undeniable, electric, but something holds her back. A sense that if she moves too fast, this fragile thing between them might shatter. Luca seems to sense her hesitation. I'm not going to invite myself up, he says softly, cupping her face with both hands. I want to. God, Emma. I want to, more than I've wanted anything in a very long time. But I also want to do this right. I want to earn your trust, not just your desire. Emma's eyes sting with unexpected tears. When was the last time someone put her needs before their wants? Thank you, she whispers. He leans down, kissing her with a gentleness that somehow feels more intimate than passion would have. It's a kiss of promise, of patience, of possibility. When he pulls back, his eyes are dark with want, but also with tenderness. Tomorrow? He asks. Can I see you tomorrow? Emma nods, not trusting her voice. I'll text you in the morning, he promises. Sleep well, bellissima. And Emma? He brushes a strand of hair from her face. Thank you for giving me this chance, for seeing past the reputation to the man beneath. Then he's gone, walking back toward the main street where she assumes a car is waiting. Emma climbs the stairs to her small apartment in a daze, her lips still tingling from his kiss, her heart full of something dangerously close to hope.